Whew. Okay, the old stairs, they're starting to rot. You can see there that they're well past their use by date. The treads are relatively new, although they will need a sand back. And even in here, this is the middle of the stairs here, they're all starting to rot. And I don't want to risk it. I think one day, if I don't replace these, I'll fall through one of these treads. So today's the day. Okay, so I've dismantled my old stairs and completely pulled them apart. I've painted over some areas where the old stairs, the old stringers used to sit into, because that was just raw timber in there, and I don't like that being raw. That just sort of, even though it's under a bit of cover there, that just allows water and wood rot. So I've given all the parts where the stairs press into and click into a good coat of paint. As well as that, you can see there's the new stringer that I've cut to size, and I've actually given it 3 coats of exterior paint. And here's the old stringers, the old set of stairs. If I turn it over, you can see, as you can see, that it's all the same size. I actually use the old stairs, and that's what's good about replacing stairs rather than building new ones. By replacing a set of stairs, I can use all the old stairs as measurements and like a template for the new stairs. So that's exactly what I've done with this. Yeah, I've pretty much placed the old stringers on top of the new ones. I've drawn a trace around them and cut it to the exact same size. As well as that, this is the old stringer supports. This is the old tread supports. And what I think they've done is they've built the stairs, and then once they've finished the stairs, then they've given it a coat of exterior paint. So you can see here, this is just aluminium angle screwed in. And I never really liked that. I was never really keen on doing that. But you can see here, they've screwed everything together and built the stairs, and then once they've completed the building, I think they've given it a coat of paint once it's all done. So that means that all this little area under here was never painted, and that's where moisture got in. You can see here, look at that, you can see that's where it rotted out. And I never really liked these just two little screws in holding this aluminium angle on. One of these, and I can't remember which one it was completely rotten out around here, and that was a disaster waiting to happen. In saying that, these stairs were 20 years old, so to my surprise they've lasted longer than I thought they would. But yeah, with the new stairs, as you can see here, I've cut these blocks of timber and I've given them 3 coats of exterior paint, and instead of using these little aluminium angle as tread supports, I'll be putting these blocks in place and putting coach bolts through, so that'll be a much stronger fit. And I'm still, even though they're coated 3 times, I'm still going to run a bead of no more gaps, just to prevent any water going down into those treads and potentially rotting it. But I think these should last a lot longer because they've all been coated 3 times. And any time I make a cut, I'll be giving it 2 or 3 coats of paint over. Okay, so what I've done now is I've actually put the old, or one of the left hand old stringer back in position, and there's my new stringer. You can see where I've cut the slice here. They didn't actually cut this very well. There's a big gap there. I've made my next one a little bit better than that. That gap's a lot smaller. But anyway, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use these old tread supports and measure my new tread supports off the old tread supports. So straight away you can see that the angle is out. So I have to prop this up. So I want to make this as level as I can. Get some old scrap bits of timber. You can see, I hope you can see, the spirit level bubble is right in the middle. Another thing I've done with these stairs used to have 9 treads, and now they've got 8 treads. And when they had 9 treads, you can see the massive footing that I've dug out here. When they had 9 treads, the last tread was here and the tread support was underneath, and then I had my stirrup and my concrete at about this height. So when the grass was long, the wet grass was up against this stringer here. And then even when I was cutting lawn, when I was using my line trimmer or my whipper snipper, I'd run it around here and I'd be stripping the paint off this. And as you can see here, that copped a lot of wood rot. So now, instead of having 9 treads, I'm going to have 8. So I'll be cutting, I've just got to leave enough room underneath my tread support, which I imagine will be down here, and I'm going to cut that there. And I'll have my new stirrup and my new footings just here right beside these old ones. It's funny, on a negative note, I actually dug these old footings out. It took me a day for both of them because I'm not young anymore, and these things were really heavy. I dug them out and cut the old stirrup off, but I could have actually just here's the other one. I could have actually just cut the old stirrup off and left them in the ground, because my new footings and stirrups are going to be in a completely different spot, and I'm going to have to fill these holes that I've just spent a day taking these big bits of concrete out. So guess what, they're going to go back in there and I'm going to fill it with soil and put my new stirrups just here. Okay, so now that I know that that's level this way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bit of timber. I'm going to use one of the new treads, and with this, make sure the spirit of the bubbles in the middle, take it over to the new stringer, and I'll know exactly where to position my new tread support. Yeah, so it's always handy not cutting up your old set of stairs and using them as a bit of a guide to build your new stairs. And you can see when I've cut these out, like I said, these old stairs weren't a great fit here, but my new ones, I've done a much not perfect. I've got a bit here that I've got a bit of a gap, but I'll be filling that with gap filler, but certainly a bit of an improvement on the last ones. The only other thing I've noticed is I couldn't get the exact thickness size. So see, these are snug up against the pole, where this actually sticks out a bit. So the treads will be about 20 mil narrower, which is still fine. Now with my spirit level, I plonk this guy on the old tread here. There's a bit of scrap timber that ends up being a perfect size, and as you can see, the bubbles in the mirror, so I know I'll do a line underneath here, and that's the position of my new tread support, so I know it's going to be level and in line. So as you can see, I've made the line, and my deck support will go under here. So one thing I've just realised, when I've worked out the spot for my tread supports, you can see this little rectangle. You probably can't see much there, but if I take it down a notch, you can see that when they're in position, that little corner there, that little triangle there, needs to be cut out, because when you look at the deck, it actually sticks out underneath the stringer, and I don't want to be running under here in another week or month or year from now and continuously bashing my head, which I always do, on anything hard, blunt and sharp. So I'll be doing a bit of power sawing, just taking that little corner out so that it fits nice and snug under this stringer here. Okay, so there we go. It's been about an hour, and what I've done is I've got the old string on one side and the new one, and I've screwed these blocks, my new stair supports, which I think are much sturdier than these old ones, and I've lined them up rung for rung, and look at that bubble there, smack bang in the middle. Hope you can see that. And that's how I've measured the spacing of the new supports. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one off and put the new stringer on and do exactly the same, but in the opposite direction. I'm going to line up the new timbers to my freshly made stair supports, make sure that the bubbles in the middle, that they're nice and level, and screw them onto the new stringer. And as you can see, I've just screwed 65mm stainless steel screws into these just to hold them into position. And even though they seem quite strong, I'm still going to add coach bolts just in the middle of this timber, maybe towards the lower end of the timber, just to give it perfect strength. Okay, deck progress. I've now used my coach bolts into one side of my step supports. They're just hand tight at the moment, and like I mentioned earlier, I as well as measuring the distance between each tread and replicating them on the other side, I also got my bit of scrap timber and my spirit level, and before I secured them on, I just made sure that they were both level as well. Yeah, so I know I've got a nice set of level steps all the way down. Yeah. Another thing that I didn't mention at the start is I made sure that when I cut these I think you call them strings, that they both end up being they're both 2.4 meters out from the side of the deck. So that means they're both the exact same angle, and because I've got a slight rise in the land, I've gone from 9 treads to 8 treads, and I noticed that the 8th tread, or the first tread, depending which way you're looking at it, will possibly be a little bit high, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build the ground up here, just put a bit of soil here and make this a bit of a very slight rise. I'll do it gradually over the whole area here, but yeah, getting there. Now, another thing that I haven't mentioned, as you can see, I've put these little tread supports in place, and I've given them all 3 coats of paint on each side. When I'm drilling holes, I start off with a very narrow drill, and I make sure that this penetrates all the way through to the other side. There we go, here you can see it penetrating through, and this is about a 3 mil. Then I follow it up with a little I think this is about a 5 or 6 mil, and then I go on to my 8 mil drill bit, and then finally, as you can see on my Ryobi U-Butte battery drill here, I've got the 10 mil one, and that's the size that I need for my 10 mil coach bolts. Now that I've got the 8th tread on, I'm going to cut take these stringers off, and I cut around the bottom tread support here and even under, so it's nice and level with this guy, because that, I can't show you here, that's where you can see here that my stirrup will fit underneath that. I'll dig that into the ground and put some coach bolts through that. So getting there, I've just painted the bottom of the stringer there. I've just given it 3 coats of exterior paint. Okay, so now I've bolted all the coach bolts on. They're nice and firm. I've put the scrap timber on the bottom level. I can see that the little spirit level bubble is right in the middle. So the stairs are all set. Now I'm just going to put a little marker there, and that's where I know I have to dig the hole for the stirrups. Okay, so I've dug my first footing and attached my first stirrup. I just lined up with a bit of chalk, and just by luck there's just enough distance in between the 2 holes that I've got this wall here. That big bit of concrete footing that I dug out, that I spent a whole day digging out, guess what, that's going to go straight back in that hole. And I'll fill that in, and that'll press up against this hole, and I'll be filling this with concrete shortly. So now I just get my little scrap timber, which is the same width as my deck, and I know that where this ends, about there, is the center of the hole for my left hand stirrup. So I'll dig that footing now. Okay, so both holes are dug, stirrups are now bolted in. I've got a about 100 mil below that stirrup bottom on the right, and the stirrup on the left. It probably has about 50 mil. I might just dig this wall very carefully a little bit this way, because it's not quite centered there, so I'm going to dig that out. Then I'll fill them with concrete, my little spacer is spot on. It's the same here as it is there, and the bubble is still in the middle. I've just got it propped up there with a bit of timber. So now once I start dig this out a little bit more and fill it with concrete, it's nice and stable, and I'm up to, I'm just about ready to put the treads on. Okay, so I've just put the old steps back into position. All the framework's done. These are the old treads. They're looking a bit ordinary, but I think they're pretty flat and pretty level. I think I'm just going to give them a go over with my little sander. Okay, so while I'm waiting for the stair treads to dry, I've actually got myself a tube of this exterior no more gaps, grey colour. And what I'm going to do, and it's probably overkill, I'm just going, I'll just put that down for a sec, I'm just going to go around all these little gaps here in the stair supports and the tread supports and just fill them. I mean, even though they're coated with 3 coats of paint on the stringers and the tread supports, I thought it's not going to hurt just to give them another extra bit of security and give them a bit of a run of no more gaps just on those cracks. Now I thought this was grey in colour because I saw the grey part there, but I think I've buggered up and it's actually white. Yep, it's white, but you know what, worse things can happen. Okay, so I've put the gap filler along all the little cracks in the tread supports, all the way down and all the way up. It's just a bummer that it's white. I thought it was grey. I didn't read the label. That's what happens when you race around in a rush. But anyway, another coat of paint, I suppose, although the treads will cover up most of that. And now that I've done that, the first coat of decking oil is dry, so I'll give these another coat, and then once that dries I'll put the treads back on, and we're getting close to walking up and down the stairs. Okay, so I've sanded back all the old treads and I've pre-drilled all the holes, and now I'm just screwing the treads, the new treads, or actually the old treads, the renovated old treads, back into the staircase. I'll just slightly counter sink that. Yeah, nice little stainless steel screws. So it's starting to take shape, and as long as we don't have any drinks, we can use this staircase now, and I'll be starting on the handrails next week. But yeah, the old treads with a bit of a sandbag and a couple of coats of oil come up really nice, and those nice big timber supports underneath, that'll last forever. I've got the gap filler, and I've coated every bit of timber here 3 times, so hopefully this staircase will outlast me. Okay, so I'm going to make this post recessed into the stringers. So I've just measured up where I need to cut. And one thing I always do is I always get a little pen line and just do a couple of little strokes so that I don't cut the wrong end off. I've done that before. So the next thing I need to do is line up my saw. And this has got a little adjustable blade setting here at the back. There we go. Here. Now before I join any timbers on that I've cut, I make sure I give them a nice coat of primer, paint primer, so that I don't expose any raw timber to the elements. So when I get to the top of the handrail, I just measure that little distance between the top of the handrail and the post there, and then I know that's how much to cut out of the bottom one. So it'll be probably about an angle of 45 degrees, and then I'll make it fit snugly up against that post. And then I'll just trim the bottom of the rail to line up with the bottom of the stairs. I've just put the railing on. When I did the screws to the railing, I put them in at right angles to the actual handrail, not the post. And I put 2 in each one. And up the top here, I've drilled them straight into the existing post. So yeah, that's come along well. Like I said before too, every time I made a cut, I put some primer over the fresh timber cut. But yeah, that's one rail done. And yeah, I'm happy with how the post recessed into the stringers. So it's a nice clean fit. Okay, we're making good progress. That's pretty much all the frame done.